But now thus says the Lord, when you go through the rivers, the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, will do a new thing.
Of our roles. As women, many times we forget that we are mothers. Institution and everyone that are represented here this morning, we embrace government. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here this morning, and I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this conference of women. I must say this is my first to be at a conference of women led by faith. My apologies as well. I was supposed to be here on Thursday, but as government business goes, a meeting had to be moved from Tuesday to Thursday, which I couldn't miss. But I really appreciate the effort in changing your programs just to facilitate my coming to speak this morning. I thank you so much. Not many audiences give me this feeling of, will I, whatever I say, will it make sense? It's not many audiences that I feel that. I walk into audiences and I feel this confidence and all, which is not all there this morning. Walking here from the road, hearing the welcoming praises of worship and joy, it's truly empowering on a Saturday morning. I'm told we have friends from around Fiji, Australia, and New Zealand as well among us, gathered to discuss and progress the development of women through the principles of Christianity. I was brought up in a Catholic family, married to my husband's Methodist, and as tradition goes, I had to convert to that. It was a new religion to me, and for a long time I stopped going to church because I couldn't fit into this new model of religion in the Methodist Church. We had our first two daughters, and still nobody was making an effort to go to church, including my husband. So I reached a stage and I thought to myself, if I'm not going to do something about this, this is the way my family is gonna be forever. And being brought up in a family where going to church was a must every Sunday, and I could see that my kids were starting to question things about the Bible, I got up on Sunday, dressed up my kids, and took them to the church I was comfortable with, the Catholic Church. We did that for two Sundays. On the third Sunday, my kids I was dressing them up, and my husband got up too and was getting dressed up. And then he asked me, he knew very well I was taking my kids to the Catholic Church, and he didn't like that. So he said, where are you going? Where are you taking the kids? I said, we're going to church. You can join us. And he didn't. He went to the Methodist Church. On the next Sunday, he came with us. And then he said to me, why are you taking the kids to the Catholic Church? I said, well, because you haven't made an effort to take us to Methodist Church. I'm not comfortable there. So the following Sunday was a new story for my family. He gets up on Sundays and he takes us to church, his church. And I'm comfortable there now. I see that as what the role of the woman is in the family. The stronghold of every family is the woman, the wife, the mother. And a lot of it also has to do with upbringing. How are we bringing up our children? Being the minister for children and poverty alleviation and women, this message, which has never really inculcated itself in my professional life, has come out strongly. These questions of what is our role as mothers, as wives, as caregivers, and how is that role impacting on the children in our country today? Those children will grow up to be mothers, to be wives as well. They will grow up to be leaders, to be ministers, and a prime minister too one day, I'm sure. How that girl, how that woman leads in the future as a wife, as a mother, as a minister, as a prime minister, will rely heavily on how that girl was brought up in the home. What principles are we instilling in our children? I grew up in a family of 3 girls and 2 boys. My parents were born in an age, in a setting that was heavily patriarchal in nature. Fijian society is heavily patriarchal, even today, especially in rural settings, in Itauke villages. You're a girl, you cannot do that. You're a boy, you have to do that. So one of the, I say, as one of the driving force behind where I am today, apart from the God Almighty, is the gift of the mother I had. Her upbringing, the principles, the values that she instilled in us, her children. My mom went up to class 8 education in the formal education system. But we always talk about it, our siblings today, and I always say, my goodness, what if mom had received the education we got as children? It doesn't take formal education. It doesn't take a degree to raise children with the principles, with the values that we want to see in the world today. It takes the power of God. It takes respect, it takes obedience, it takes humility, and it takes the ability to see in every individual, the gift of life, the gift of God. I'm not a preacher. I don't know the Bible inside out. But I do know that this Bible talks about that one of the tenets of the Bible is love and equality. 2 of the words that I like to talk about in my speeches in different terms. I talk about empowerment of women, social empowerment, economic empowerment of women. I talk about gender equality, I talk about domestic violence, I talk about child abuse and neglect, I talk about poverty. I believe that if we strengthen these tenets of love within the family, of respect for our fellow human beings, raising children to be righteous, to grow up, to be productive citizens within the family, they will grow up to be great leaders of this country, to be great leaders of their families. Education. Another very important, I'd say, driving force behind what our children will become tomorrow. In most families, most traditional families, girls were not given the same opportunities as boys to go to school. Back in the age when I was small, and that's in the 70s. Yeah. As an example, one of my sisters, she went up to Form 6 and she refused to go to school anymore. She said, "Mom, I just want to stay home and help you." So my mother told her, "You have to go to school. It's important for you to go to school." But my dad told my mom, "Don't force her. You let her stay home and you make her do everything that you do around the house. Let her do it herself. You don't do it." My mom stayed home. Dad went to work. My sister could only have 1 week of that. And she decided to go back to school. She became a teacher later on, and she always goes back to that story to tell us how our parents propelled us to do things that they knew were good for us, but didn't want to force it upon us, for us to see ourselves, the goodness in all that. Back to the importance of upbringing, of teaching. What are we teaching our children today? When I look at statistics of domestic violence, 72% of women, Fijian women, who have ever been in an intimate relationship in Fiji have suffered domestic violence. And this statistics goes back a few years. In light of these statistics, it's a continuing outcry, it's a continuing challenge from the policy level, from government level, to address this cancer within our society. Government is doing quite a bit. We're installing domestic toll-free helplines, counselors on the other side. The numbers keep rising. Now it's gone on to a child's helpline. That again shows the rising number of child abuse and child neglect in our country. Where does all this end? Where does it end? As a minister right now, I know for a fact it's not going to end tomorrow. We're not going to wake up with 0 stats tomorrow. The stats will keep growing. All this, maybe in 10 years' time, it'll depend a lot on how we are raising our kids today. There's hope in our children. And that hope has to come from us. What values are we instilling in them? Are we telling our sons, telling our daughters, you wash your brother's dishes and his clothes because that's your job to do it? If your kids are out at night, you're keeping food for them, you only keep food for your boys, not for the girls, because they're supposed to be home cooking? How are we treating our children at home? Are we treating our boys differently from our girls? I grew up in a family where I was expected, like my brother, to wash his dishes after every meal. That's the expectation of our mother, and nobody would dare cross her. And that rule applied to every visitor that came to our home. You finish your meal, you wash your own dishes. Growing up in university days, those heydays, I'd be out with my friends, come back home, and the one and only time, one of my brothers tried to question me in that Itoke patriarchal way. Where have you been? Where were you? My mother intervened. When you disappear like that, does anybody ask you? You come back home, do we torment you like that? My brother got quiet. If it doesn't happen to you, then you don't do it to your sisters. How do we raise our children at home? If we are inculcating in them that there is a difference in your privileges, your obligations, then we are helping raise another generation of Fijians that will continue to inculcate inequality in our society. I'm really delighted to be here and to also congratulate the vision behind this Frontline, Women on the Frontline, this organization, and what it does. The vision to empower women using the principles of Christianity, using biblical principles. I don't think that there's anything in the Bible, apart from our different beliefs in deity, the different gods that we believe in. But the principles embedded in the Bible is common across mainstream religions. loving each other, respecting each other, of faith, of hope, of being righteous, of living a righteous life. They're common across denominators, religious denominations. So what it is that we're twisting out of all this, what it is that we are doing wrong, what it is that we are doing that's still seeing the different cancers in society that we don't want to see anymore. And I see that as the biggest role of faith-based organizations. I see that as a very strong role of faith-based organizations. Government cannot do this. Government cannot weed out domestic violence on its own. We can put in toll-free helplines. We can build homes for assaulted women. We can charge the perpetrators, we can put them in jail, and we'll continue to do that if we don't get the right partnerships from our stakeholders. And at the ministry, we believe that faith-based organizations, they're a very strong partner. A very strong partner, but we haven't yet realized the full potential of that partnership. So it is conferences like this, integrating religious principles with policies of government that I think will work in the long run. I believe will work in the long run. In realization of that, last year, my ministry for the first time held a forum of faith-based organizations in Suva. It was because it was the first time, we just wanted to hear. We didn't even know what different religious organizations were doing in relation to empowerment of women, in relation to child welfare and protection, in relation to poverty alleviation. So for us, it was a fact-finding mission, and then to see how can we sustain this relationship and make it stronger in the long run. For the faith-based organizations at the end of the forum, hearing their comments, for them, they were thankful as well, because a few of them said, we found this really good because we didn't know they were doing that too. We didn't know they were doing that too. Being faith-based organizations, we have also been separated by our belief. We have allowed our belief to separate us so that we have become sort of ignorant to the work of God that every other denomination does, no matter what deity they believe in. So for us as a ministry, it's taking stock of what faith-based organizations do. And now we're on to, for the next financial year, we hope to strengthen our relationships with these faith-based organizations and see how faith-based organizations can complement what we do at the ministry so that we can together achieve these aims that we all want to achieve in relation to the empowerment of women, in relation to the eradication of domestic abuse, child abuse and neglect, and in alleviating poverty. I walked down the driveway and I saw the display out there. Made me very happy. Talents of women is amazing. And that's God-given. How can it be wrong? How can it not be beautiful? For our visitors, in June this year, June 14th to 16th, Fiji held its biggest ever Women's National Expo. An exposition of women's talents, just women, 500 women. We brought them from all parts of Fiji, where they showcased their talents at the Vodafone Arena for 3 days in Suva. In 3 days, these 500 women collected almost $400,000. In 3 days. There's a lady from Laos that came with 28 mats. 28 mats. She earned the highest amount at that expo, over $4,000 in 3 days. And that is the untapped potential of our Fijian women. That we as a ministry, as a government, as religious organizations, as faith-based organizations need to unlock. We need to unlock that untapped potential. And I know that if we unlock that untapped potential, this poverty will just fly out the window. I'm sure of that. So what are we doing as a ministry to move towards that untapping of that potential? Women are happy to do this at home, in the villages. We can't expect to take them out of their communities and make them work in the city. We respect that. So what can we as stakeholders do to encourage women to continue to produce this marvelous art where they are? After the expo, I had the privilege of talking to the different divisions, the 4 divisions, the heads of the divisions, and to hear from them what they saw as the biggest challenge to getting this sold. Because they said to me, it's unfortunate we can only do this only once a year. Because we come and sell for 3 days, we can't sell everything in 3 days. We've got to take it back. And once we reach the village, that's it. We've got to wait again for the next year. So the night before the expo started, the ministry staff, our media team, came and took pictures of these works of art with the aim of creating a catalog, a shopping catalog of art made by Fijian women. The aim to create a sustainable market for them. Next week, we will be hosting a group of experts from Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, ladies, there is a model, they call it arong. In their language, in English, it means the market, the village market. Arong has become a franchise in Bangladesh. It's basically a shop you can go to when you go to a city. And when you say the word arong, people automatically connect it to women and fine art. That's what this has done, the work of art of women. So the executives of Arong are coming to Fiji to see how they can replicate that model in Fiji for our Fijian women and their art. And as religious organizations, as faith-based organizations, we also have a role to play. We should not, please, forget that when we are in church, we're preaching about the Bible, about God. Please don't forget to preach about the economic empowerment of women as well. And that economic empowerment cannot come if there's no social empowerment at home. The pulpit is a very, very strong platform for putting this message across to each and every Fijian. And I see that as another untapped potential. The potential of the church to spread this message of gender equality, of eradicating abuse in our children and our women every Sunday when they preach. I'm happy, but I'm not very happy. It's a step towards the right direction. That the Council of Churches is together, they've come together and they've got an advertisement going on domestic violence. A few months ago, over the course of, I think, 3 Sundays, preachers were told to preach about domestic violence in church. That's a step in the right direction. But the fact that we have to identify a certain period to talk about it, still tells me that we still have a lot of work to do. It should be part and parcel of every sermon we deliver about love, about respect, all that. This is should be part and parcel of it. I think I've spoken for too long. I just like to thank the organizers again for the invitation to be here. I came with a prepared speech and I just didn't use it. And I think what I've just told you was the message I'm supposed to tell you. I thank you, and I sincerely hope that you will enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm looking at the program and I just wish I had been here from day one and just stayed with you throughout. But I'm sure that I'll have an opportunity to meet you after this or at some other conference during the year. I'd like to see more of these kind of conferences, moving women through the word. We need more of that, because I think I believe that if we're strong in that, then we have a bright future coming at us. Thank you again. Good night.